Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Midwest Ag This Week. I'm Stu Ellis. I'll take care of the chores today. Before we begin, I want to welcome WMBD viewers around Peoria to our program, and I look forward to visiting with you. On our show today, you'll hear the details of the growing the top corn yield in the Corn Belt. We'll find out how to avoid black swans. The EPA is again revising its water regulations, and you'll learn what's going on. We'll also re-engineer some soybeans for future climate challenges. All that and more, beginning right now.
Welcome to Midwest Ag This Week with host Stu Ellis.
For the second consecutive year, the perfect rain has fallen on Troy Uphoff's corn near Findlay. And for the second consecutive year, he's been a top winner in the National Corn Yield Contest. Rain is needed, but what else is needed in his formula to raise the best yield in the Corn Belt for conventional production?
It's an honor that my family and I have worked very hard about. We've got a great group of employees, and we've got a lot of great people around us that help us make this happen for the second year in a row. We planted DeKalb 6464. It's one of the top genetic lines on the market. Had a great year with that. About 355 bushel to the acre. Moisture was very abundant, and tile systems really paid.
Fertility recommendations come from Dr. Fred Belo at the University of Illinois.
So we go off the U of I's recommendations, and those recommendations allow, and we just raise the recommendation to what a 300 bushel the acre yield would be. And so we actually utilize that very well. And so we put on 300 pounds of potash, 300 pounds of DAP, phosphate, and then nitrogen is addressed accordingly in 4 different passes. We started off last fall. Soil temperature was below 50 degrees with 140 units of N with N-Serve, followed by this spring with a pass about 45 units with our chemical, followed by a second pass to late stage side dress. We had a tremendous amount of disease pressure, and disease hit late, so essentially we applied a pass of fungicide pre-tassel and after tassel. So we had 2 passes there. That ultimately ended up averaging about a 20 to 40 bushel the acre increase over our 1 pass fungicide. The plant population on the plot this year was 38,000 actual stand. So we planted it there on May the 4th, May the 5th, got along really well with that. And Mother Nature helps a lot too. Mother Nature allowed us to grow a good crop. She gave us about 3 to 4 inches of rain, not 8 inches of rain like some of my friends up around Blue Mountain and Booty had that first 2 weeks of July.
What is your challenge in farming next year? Risk management educator Steve Johnson, retired from Iowa State, says it's going to be managing revenue risk. And he suggests some deep exploration of all the crop insurance options and then protect your revenue risk should there be a black swan next year.
So spending time with your crop insurance agent in advance of using your APH yields to make revenue protection decisions, but maybe in a year like 22 where we're going to have high projected price, high volatility, higher premiums, maybe I come to a lower level of coverage. Maybe I go from 85% RP to 80%, but then I can pick up an SCO product, supplemental coverage, that provides 86% coverage level of the county yield. But here comes the interaction with ARC PLC. If I take SCO, I can't take ARC County. So I just made my decision. I'm going to use SCO on corn. So I'm going to have to take PLC through the FSA program. But if you're not going to take supplemental coverage option, SCO, make this easy. Take ARC County at the local FSA office. Do it online and get it done, and then focus on these shallow loss products.
The Fed says 3 interest rate hikes in the coming year. How bad is that going to blow the farm economy out?
I've seen Farm Credit Illinois, Compare. I've watched them for 5 years preparing farmers for this day when we're going to have interest rates. We heard today interest rates are probably going to be like they were in 17 and 18. And the likelihood is, I don't think the interest rates are the driving force of crop revenue risk. I think the driving force is A, the inflation and supply chain issues on the cost side, and then what happens if we grow large crops, or what happens if we have a geopolitical issue? What if Russia goes to the Ukraine or China goes to Taiwan? I think those are things that we cannot control, but we can control those decisions regarding managing crop revenue. That's what we've got to be very focused on.
Focusing on an umbrella.
That's right. We actually have some rain in our forecast this weekend, Stu, and after that, it's actually pretty quiet, so no more of these big ups and downs with our swings in our temperatures like we've had the past couple weeks.
Well, that'll be good. Everybody likes stability.
Yes, yes.
Give us some.
We've got some stability. Not only that, it's also normal, too, which is also going to be a nice change of pace here. We do have the chance for some rain showers as we go throughout the rest of our Saturday morning. After that system that departs the area, though, we expect high pressure to come into play, and that high pressure will keep things very quiet. We're actually just going to let this animate here. No real big systems expected to come on through the area for the next week or so. That's going to be nice and quiet as temperatures are going to be generally in the 30s and 40s. You'll see that our precipitation forecast is going to be higher in the southeastern corner of our viewing area. Farther closer to I-55, we've got less in the way of some rain showers. But this will really be all done by the time we get to Saturday morning. Once we are done with our rain showers, it's then actually a fairly dry forecast. Our 8 to 14 day outlook, which does take us almost to the end of the year, calls for things to be a little bit drier than normal. Our drought monitor, as you can tell, has seen some improvement, especially in the western states where there are still a lot of drought issues there, but we've had a lot of rain in the lower elevations of California and a lot of snow in the upper elevations of California. So when we have the next update come out next week, it'll likely look a lot better. Our drought monitor, though, for a lot of the Midwest is pretty good. Near the Chicagoland area, north of there's some spots that are a little dry, but otherwise, a lot of the state is looking to be very good. You'll notice, though, our temperatures, not very big in the temperature swings ups or downs. We're actually very close to normal in the 30s and 40s for most of our forecast. And in terms of any big cold weather outbreaks, all that cold weather is still bottled up in Canada and is really not expected to make its way into the lower 48. We might have some cold days here across Minnesota and North Dakota, but for the most part, though, a lot of the lower 48 will be relatively quiet. So Stu, like I said, one of the nice things with this forecast will be it's very stable. We don't have a lot of big temperature swings up or down, and hopefully that will be good for especially locations that have to clean up from the tornadoes that we saw last week. It should be a nice quiet forecast for them.
All right, Jack, thank you much.
You're welcome.
See you next week.
Yes.
Coming up, a little bit of water and EPA right after this.
Welcome back to Midwest Ag This Week.
The EPA announced earlier this year that it would rewrite its rules for managing water, scrapping the EPA regulations from both the Obama and Trump administrations. Environmental Policy Director Lauren Lurkins of the Illinois Farm Bureau says we're getting a glimpse of what's going on.
Back in early summer, the agencies, the EPA and the Army Corps, said they were going to start 2 rulemakings this year or before the year end to rewrite the definition of waters of the U.S. That would be the definition of features on the land that they have federal jurisdiction over. So what happened was last week they actually started that process by publishing their first rulemaking of 2. So we're right now in the middle of a 60-day public comment period where the public can actually see the 290-page proposal and then also comment on it. And then EPA and the Corps will take all of that into consideration.
I'm not going to ask you what's all in those 290 pages, but give us a sense of what it says.
Right. So the main point that we're hearing from the agencies is that they want to take this back to the foundation of the 1986 version of the rule, plus some Supreme Court cases. What's important to us in ag from what we have seen is it's a return to the significant nexus test. Does your activity on the land have a significant nexus to water that's navigable? That can be problematic for folks because they may not have the technical ability to make that call on the fly on the farm. And then some other exclusions which are very important for agriculture, including prior converted cropland. There's some language that seems to kind of walk away from some language that we liked under the Navigable Waters Protection Rule version.
All right, we've got the proposal. What's next?
So the proposal is out. We're in the middle of that 60-day comment period, and as of the first of the year here at Farm Bureau, we will kick off an action alert for our membership to make it easy for them to, number one, find the docket, and number two, let the agencies know how they feel about this language.
Okay, so getting farmers involved
Right.
in getting some feedback to the EPA then, that's important.
Absolutely, and we hear from our membership all the time, what's happening, when can I talk to them in a public setting, and so, we know that's an expectation from our members that we'll let them know about this opportunity.
Put a big red circle around the date of April 1st on your calendar for next year. That's the deadline for taking the anhydrous ammonia training required by the Illinois Department of Agriculture. Training became a state law after a massive leak from an ammonia tank traveling through a Chicago suburb several years ago. Chuck Cawley of the Agriculture Department says winter is a good time to take the training.
Effective April 1st, 2022, growers and grower farm operators, that would be farmers, full and part-time hired help, family members, and anyone else helping on the farm that works with anhydrous ammonia in any way, needs to complete training. The training online, we've got over 1,300 growers or grower farm operators that have completed the training. They can print that out. The training is free. Simply go to the department website and you'll be able to find a link to get to the training.
Okay. After the training, is there a test then that they've got to pass?
No, there is no test. There will be a test your knowledge type questions just to review the material, but no formal test. I think we should be prepared. We have 1,300 or more online. We've got over 500 that have taken the training in person. You can get on the online program at any time and do that. I would venture to guess that we are a strong one-third completed with the training.
Okay, so farmers over the winter time here, when there's cold weather, it's a good time to take this training and get certified then.
Yes, if you're going to do it online, there's probably no better time than now. We will have in-person training. The department will be working with the Illinois Fertilizer and Chemical Association to offer in-person training. This will be between February 21 and March 4, as well as March 14. They should also check with their ammonia retailer or supplier. Many retailers will be offering in-person training to their customers. So there should be a number of opportunities.
Every time the market goes up, we talk to Chip Dellinger. And we think that Chip is probably the reason that it goes up. Soybeans and corn are on a rip and a tear this week.
Yeah, they were, Stu. And the main item this week is continuing hot, dry weather in southern Brazil, northern Argentina. You're getting into a prime growing, period there for them in their reproductive stage of their crops. And as you kind of get ready to transition into the new year in January, it's becoming pretty critical. So La Nina is driving hot, dry temperatures in southern Brazil. Northern Argentina added some weather premium to corn and beans this week. Came just shy of these magic $6 number on corn. Got just within a couple cents of that. Also within about 2.5 cents of the magic $13 level on beans. Couldn't push through it. But I think if we come in Sunday night, early Monday, and this extended forecast is still hot and dry, you're going to probably exceed those magical levels early next week in trading action.
So you're advising folks to be careful of what's going on Sunday night. Look for some opportunities, but be ready to manage some risk if they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as an old crop perspective goes here, we know where our yields were in most areas in central Illinois. Very strong yields, maybe not record, but close. And so if we do get pushed up north of $6 on March corn futures and $13 on January bean futures next week, it's going to, with strong basis levels for both corn and beans, still offering really great gross dollars per acre. And in our opinion, opportunities to get scaled into some additional sales and kind of start that process of whittling down what's left on our old crop stocks now.
Chip, we just got a couple of seconds, but does the inflation and warning of some interest rate hikes, will that have an impact on the market in coming weeks?
Well, it certainly will. And, I think we're still trying to figure that out. There's a Federal Reserve meeting this week. They gave us a little more guidance. Certainly the dollar and interest rates are going to drive things in the first quarter of 2022 and definitely affect our agricultural futures markets.
Great. Chip, thanks so much. We appreciate your help. See you in a few weeks. Happy holidays, sir.
Thanks, you too.
Chip Nellinger of Blue Reef Marketing helping us out today. And we'll be back to check your battery right after this. Well, you and your farm equipment may be ready for the winter, but are there some batteries on your tractors and your combine that are maybe not ready for the winter? You don't want to delay next spring trying to find a replacement battery someplace and have to travel all over the state to get one. Let's take a look at battery protection over the winter.
In our Shop Talk session today, we want to check on batteries, tractors, combines, before you put them away for the winter, or if you still haven't done it yet. And if you've got those implements in cold storage, why maybe you have some things that you should do. Eric Dutzman, who's the service manager at AHW in Monticello, for folks who have a tractor, a combine, what should they be doing to that battery before putting it away for the winter?
The main thing you want to do to any battery before you store it is make sure it's fully charged. So batteries will always self-discharge, so we want to start at the highest level as we can. We want to make sure the top of the battery is clean. So if there is dirt or debris on top, that battery will discharge faster. So we want to clean our batteries, charge them all the way up. If your equipment has a disconnect, a battery disconnect, you want to shut that battery disconnect off. For older equipment that might not, you could remove the negative battery terminal just to keep it from being drawn down, from discharging.
All right.
Those are the main things to do. Some people will put trickle chargers on for the winter. That's not always feasible. So our main thing is we want to get it as fully charged as we can and minimize that discharge by keeping the battery clean and keeping whatever draw we can off the battery with disconnects or removing cables. So in the spring, when we're going to take it out of storage, if you turn the key on, a lot of this equipment will tell you what the battery voltage is. So before you even try and start it, you can see if you're above 11 volts, you can probably just start your piece of equipment. But anytime you get below 70% of the charge, if you start getting into that 10 volt range, you might want to charge it before you even attempt to start it. Just go ahead and put a battery charger on it if you've dropped to 10 volts or below. And then just start your piece of equipment, allow it to charge the batteries up. And if it's stored properly, clean, with no corrosion, you shouldn't have a problem. It should be able to start itself. So if you don't put it in fully charged, you're starting at a lower level, and people put a battery away that's dusty. All of this dirt is allowing electrons to flow across and discharging faster, or people don't disconnect and their equipment draws it down. So storing it in the cold is fine, as long as you prepare it for the cold.
Some good ideas from Eric Dutzman, who's service manager at AHW in Monticello. That's our Shop Talk for today.
Charge it up, clean it up, and disconnect the negative terminal. Well, coming up, warmer summers and winters, what it does to your soybeans. As the Corn Belt records warmer summers and winters, many farmers are wondering about the impact on crops such as corn and beans. Dr. Don Ort is concerned also. He's been engineering soybeans to be able to withstand the challenges of higher temperatures. And that's today's research focus at the University of Illinois College of Aces.
Well, we know that the climate is changing, and it's changing over terrestrial areas much more rapidly than it is globally. And of course, this is where we grow food crops. What's driving this is increases in CO2 concentration. But maybe the biggest worry for crop agriculture is the fact that this increase in CO2 concentration is driving warming in the atmosphere. And that's probably the biggest challenge to crop agriculture going forward.
Okay, and so how do we get around that? What are you doing to reverse that or protect that crop?
Yeah, and so really there are three primary effects of above optimal temperatures on crop plants. And so one has to do with the fact that as the leaves get warmer, they lose more water for every CO2 molecule that they take up. And so that's a big one. The second big one, as many farmers are very well aware, is that there are high temperature effects directly on the reproductive processes in plants. And so flowering and silking, and they're very temperature sensitive. There's also a very important temperature sensitivity to vegetative growth, and that has to do with the temperature sensitivity of photosynthesis. And so what we've tried to do is to give the plant an energetically more efficient way to recycle that glycolate. And now what we've done is we've taken those same plants and we've put them under conditions where we've warmed them up 5 degrees. And we've just asked the question, are they also more temperature tolerant than the wild type plants? Theory predicts they were going to be, and the results showed that in fact they were. The one that we really want to put it in is soybean. In soybean, it takes a year or more to go through that transition, and you get 20 seeds. And so you have to go through amplifications. And so we're kind of at the point where we have that first set of 20 seeds.
Well, that concludes this edition of Midwest Ag This Week. And we hope that you have benefited from some of the information you saw and you heard today. And you might share it with your farming colleagues. On behalf of the Midwest Ag team this week, we invite you to join us again next time. I'm Stu Ellis, reminding you to be safe in the cab, your chores, and always around grain bins.